Welcome to the Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers of Washington and its monthly author showcase. I am Peter Stockwell, your host. Author Matt Ryan is visiting with us this month at the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television Studios. I have known Matt for over 30 years, attending church together at St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Bremerton, Washington. After retiring from a real job a few years ago, Matt decided to join me as a retired person undertaking the task of writing and publishing a novel. After a few years of revisions and editing his story, it is now available. Matt, I have published and marketed several books. This is a daunting task. What inspired you and captured or compelled you to your book, The Revenge of the Banker's Daughter?
That has to go start back when I was 15. I was working in my first job at a resort outside of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, where our dude wrangler's big brother had had been in that community. His brother was doing time in the state penitentiary for statutory rape, and it turns out this came about because he had asked the banker's daughter to marry him, and he was arrested for statutory rape. The banker's daughter, in this instance, did not have the power of personality that the one I conjured up did. She got on the bus and left town, and they never saw her again. But my banker's daughter, I felt would take no prisoners, and that included her father.
Well, plots are dreamed up from the experiences we live. Do you have something in your history which modeled this story? And does your wife, Pat, know?
She knows quite a bit about this. She's had to do a lot of the first revisions before I hired an editor.
Very good. We are, of course, CLAW, Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers, and you have joined us. Have you enjoyed becoming a part of CLAW?
Well, yes, we'd have our get-togethers at the Family Pancake House. Was it on Wednesday anyway?
Yeah, first and third Wednesdays.
And I don't drive anymore, so Pat tells me when it's time to get in the car and go.
How have you benefited from being part of CLAW?
I think the thing that is, well, one thing I've learned a lot about the distribution, the marketing of my works. Such things as getting things like this in beyond the book, and I didn't even know what ISBN numbers were, the numbers that you find on the back of your books, and I basically got a good foundation. I hope anyway. I hope it's good. We'll find out.
Well, you are a retired naval officer.
Yes.
You have experiences in the insurance business, and you also have a political career that you undertook here in Kitsap County. Have they helped you to craft this book? How do you fashion your stories, and do you have a writing schedule to follow?
Well, how do I craft? Well, I guess one thing is I have to find the characters to write about, and for the revenge, why I had I remember there was a deputy sheriff who probably in other places would have been busted for the things he did, but he had a big gut, and you always you could see what color his undershirt was, and so I took he was an easy one, and the sheriff of Weld County, who'd been elected back in the 1880s, and finally was so old that his deputies were helping him up on the stage when it came to re-election time. And there were just various people like that in different duty stations. As far as the kind of things that happened that were in the story, we used to go to the mountains in the summer and go to these small counties where it was pretty hard to hide your bad habits as a public official. And so my mother was active in politics, mm-hmm. and so I heard about these things and just conjured them back up.
Is there anybody in our county, when you were county commissioner, that might have modeled one of these county commissioner type roles? Not that we want to mention anybody by name.
Yes, there was a prosecutor who was good for that kind of thing.
Well, maybe somebody will dig that up later. We'll find out. Your character, Gloria Knight, the banker's daughter, is to me a rather intriguing person. Since I was a school teacher and I have met all kinds of students and with varying abilities and mental capacities, this girl seems extremely bright.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned the banker's daughter in Colorado that left and never came back. This girl came back. Why?
Actually, she never came back.
Well, she came back to do something. We'll leave that for the readers to find out what it was. But I find that you've developed some very good characters in this story. And you brought up some of the political issues that we even still deal with today in terms of how we interact with each other. They use the term half-breed in the story, and it was more prevalent back in the 1940s when this book took place. Now, Matt, most authors I have met are driven to become an entity in this literary world. They want to find that one story which compels and propels their career to new heights. Even I want some recognition for my work. What are your goals as an author?
Well, starting back when I was on active duty in the Navy, I'd find time to write. And I'd write. I've got a number of plots that some of them have generated come to the distance of a story of a complete novel. But a bunch of others, there's holes here and there, and I have to go through and do a lot of editing. For one thing, I started out, I didn't know anything about writing, and I just would write down what I thought about at the time. And now that I go over on Saturdays and listen to Bob Shoemaker and listen to the others, I think I've got a much better product. So what it is I don't know how much time I have left on this world, but I guess my goal is to see how many of these plots that I've turned into stories come along.
Well, we are leaving a legacy for our children and our grandchildren. These books will live, even when we don't.
Well, that's hopeful, yes.
In a general sense, has writing this book been a help for you?
Well, yes, it is, because when you're a retired soul, I think you need to have something to reason to get up in the morning and go out and do things, and that I think has been a big help.
I know writing has enhanced my own life and compels me to want to satisfy my readers. So, do you feel an emptiness when you're not writing?
It seems that I get compelled to go to all these different places and all these different things. It's finding the time betwixt those to do the writing. For one thing, the doctor says I've got to do exercise, so I go over to the Y every day. And when I go to the Y, I'm the passenger in the car, and we seem to go play all these different places. So I could use a little more time.
There's always more time needed, yes. Is there a compunction to satisfy readers by coming out with another book?
I guess I tried this with Gloria Coffels, or Gloria Knight as she started out, and I looked at the stories from the time she left home to never come back to the time this last novel started. I thought that I had a real compelling story in the last part of her life, but I just didn't think that the things that I conjured up in the middle part of her life would really get people to buy the next edition.
Yeah, that's the thing about stories, is they're just a little piece of a long story, and we cut them up into the pieces that we're using. And you mentioned Gloria Caulfels. Readers, the actor in this story that she marries, you'll need to learn, you'll need to find out about. You're planning to write more books. You've already written one that is the sequel to this book. And as a retired naval officer, I would like to know if you have any stories about your experiences as a military leader.
Well, I have a novel I call The Liberty Risk, and it is the character is a ensign who worked his way through college being an MC at a nightclub, and not the kind of thing you'd expect to have for that sort of thing. And he tends to be leave the place where bad things happen just before they happen, or he finds some way to escape it. One of my favorite parts of the story is when he goes to Tijuana, and he's a kind of guy that doesn't believe that he pays for sex, and his buddies go off, and he ends up with a taco wagon, and he sells more tacos over a weekend than he makes in a month.
Yes, tacos are popular.
And of course, I got that there was a young ensign, not on my ship, but another ship, who managed to do that. And so I thought that was something to put in a story, and to give it a bit of drama. His buddies get busted and are in the Tijuana jail, and he bails them out with the money he made selling tacos.
Well, the reason I asked the question is one of our earlier interviews was with a retired Army officer who says he has a catch-22 style of book, and I would think it would be really fun to have one out of your history as well, if you had one. I don't know if the taco story would qualify, but it certainly sounds like there might be some germs of a story there. In a general sense, the hardest part of a published book is putting it in the marketplace. So what have you found out about the marketplace, and how do you get your book before readers?
I'm learning. I thought that once I got this in the hand of a publisher, the publisher did everything. And I found that the publisher does a wonderful job of printing the books. And he is on a learning curve on these kind of things. I found a service through the people that provide the ISBN numbers.
Bowker.
Right. Called Incubate or something. Incubate.
Oh yeah, they do have a service in there.
And
they do advertising and such.
And what this does is they take my or your work and compare it to all these different other authors by style and things like that. And so that gives, when I'm talking to somebody, in a bookstore, why I can say, well, there's this other guy over here that sold 600,000 copies of his novel, and I'm 90% the same as his. So it gives me some room there. And I've got some services out there, Booker's Daily Reader Service.
Yeah, there's BookBub and Writer's Digest has services.
Right.
Yeah, there are a number of ways of getting books out there.
And so I'm really doing that. I've of course try and not make myself so unpopular selling my books that they chase me out the door. But I've had with the second novel, I've had a number of people who've come up to me and said, "Hey, I really liked your first book. I want to try and read your second."
Yeah, that's always fun to have people come up and say that.
Yeah, and so that's a big help. And one thing is my publisher is in the process of producing an audio book of the Banker's Daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is a very growing marketplace, audiobooks.
Yeah.
So I understand. How do you find new readers? Other than, I mean, we've got the services that we can put out there, but for myself, I'm here basically in the local market in the Northwest. How do you find new readers? Do you go find them one at a time, or groups, book signings?
I've done a little bit of book signing, but not much. But it's been more one at a time, and so that's the general way of going.
Well, so that brings up the next question. Do you have any events that are coming up in the next few months?
I wish I did.
Well, we'll see what we can do about that in Claw, because I know with us, we have been at our meetings, and you've been there when we've talked about the various events that are going on in this county, all over the spring, through the summer, and into the fall. And I know in my history, I have been with the farmers market in Bremerton and found that successful, as well as the county fair and the Blackberry Festival. And we're looking in Claw to expand that. So we'll drag you along with us if you want to.
Whatever I can on that.
Yeah. Do you have any way in which you can be contacted by book clubs or organizations that want you to come and speak to them?
Well, we've got, of course, the standard old one, the old telephone, 360-692-0186.
Okay.
And I also have my website, mattryan.com.
This isn't the football player, by the way, folks.
And I'm known to avoid being mistaken for the guy that lost the Super Bowl. I go by T. Matt Ryan.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll have all that information. You'll have seen it on the screen. We'll also post it at the end of the show today in the credits. I'd like to give you the final word. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on to our BCAT audience about how you work through the craft and this art of writing?
Well, I think it's one of these things that I probably mentally wrote more driving around from between. I was an outside salesman with doing employee benefits and working with businesses and people insurance. And when I was get out on the freeway and driving along, why I'd conjure up a scene or two. And then I'd get home, why I'd get busy on the computer till I had call for dinner. And so that's why I had all these little blocks there, and then I had to fit them together. But I think it's a matter of discipline, thinking these things out. Also, I laid out what I visualized the characters to look like and to be like. And Yes, the Gloria Coffels. When I was, I believe I was in high school and college. My dad's college roommate's niece was a very ambitious soul, and probably the only thing that I did different was I made my character a very beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so you try and picture what kind of person you would want this individual to be.
Do you write down who they are? I know when we are meeting people, we don't always know everything about a person, and the longer we know somebody, the more we get to know about them. Mm-hmm. But we as authors, I know for myself, I fully develop an entire character and then slowly feed it into the book.
Right.
Do you do that as well?
I try and do it.
Good. How about your sceneries and your places? I guess I'm asking, are you a pantser or are you a plotter? Now, if you don't know the terms, pantsers are those who just write by the seat of their pants. They just take off and start writing, whereas plotters will have full outlines. They're almost complete books. And I kind of figure myself to be in between the two of those.
I was going to say I'm a pantsing plotter.
A pantsing plotter? Well, very good. Well, Matt, thank you for coming out to record this show. I look forward to our continued endeavors with you in conjunction with Kitsap literary artists and writers. You will be hosting a show in the future, I hope, just like sitting here and interviewing somebody else. We have plenty of people that are coming up. So, I would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in to the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television and viewing this literary artists and writers production. I also wish to thank the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television staff who are working on the cameras and the director's chairs. Our broadcast is scheduled for Saturday evenings at 6 p.m. And if you wish to watch this presentation again, it will be rebroadcast 2 weeks from this Saturday on April 15th at 6 p.m. A new show will air on the second and fourth Saturdays this month of April at 6 p.m. when I will grace your TV screen as the person who is interviewed by Mark Miller. Keep in touch with our Facebook pages to discover where you can meet local artists and local authors. I hope everyone has a pleasant evening and a productive and fascinating week. And until next Saturday, I am Peter Stockwell with Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers in conjunction with Bremerton Kitsap Access Television. Good evening. Thank you.